What a fucking spectacle. I'm gonna get my headphones on real quick. Man, man, oh man, what was that? That was something. That was definitely something. These are. Oh man, my AirPods are dead. All right, I guess I'm gonna have to do it like this. Oh man, that was something, huh? That was fucking hilarious. This is what happens when this is like basically I've been thinking of Kanye as like the archetype of like the subjectivity going through this sort of like internet based research, like kind of like very basic level, like where you're not like reading any books or anything, obviously, because Kanye doesn't read. Kanye hasn't had like any sort of rigorous education in any form about like history or any of these like issues that he's running into like face first. So he's informed entirely by like the rest of the culture and like, by things like, like he watches like YouTube videos, YouTube documentaries and stuff like that. And I think this is like pretty normative. Like most people are engaged with these subjects through these modes. So what you're basically seeing is like this is the educational regime that the alt media represents, right? So it's like if he's getting out of the mainstream media. Now he's like this alt media person. Like he can only go on like Tim Pool and Alex Jones. And even at that point, he's a little too far for them. It's because his like education, his diet here to explain like what's going on in his own life, etc., is this entire like alt media ecosystem, which is really just an extension of the normative like media ecosystem in the first place. So it's like this is him crashing through all of like 2010's poll discourse like in one go, just like and you can tell clearly that these are the things that he's been talking about with Fuentes and Milo, except he doesn't have the concern that they do for their media profiles because Kanye just fucking blew up his media profile, right? He's lost like billions of dollars. He's like in the full process of like doing like a bonfire of the vanities and like trying to completely humiliate himself for his shortcomings because he's like, even in that, he has a great point where he's confessing to his sort of hypocrisy of trying to be like a Christian advocate while continually sinning, etc., living in a life of sin, being a part and privy to all of these things. So like when he's talking about all of this stuff, like he's assuming that everyone already knows that he's like just as guilty of all the things that he's talking about. That's like the same kind of mentality that he's having when he says that um, that he like loves the Nazis and things like that, or is like that we did the same sort of thing, etc. Is because he's saying that like no one is good. There's no good person in the world. I think he's right about that. It's a basic just like Christian intuition that there are none who are good in the world. You can't boast of your own goodness, and you have to pray for your enemies, etc. So he's constantly talking about how what he's trying to say is that the established like normative version of events that we are told is not correct. So he goes to the alt media. A lot of people feel that way. They think that the story that's being told about the world isn't correct. And so that like, sometimes they can get groomed into the elite description, right? The elite description of the prevailing hegemony, which would be like, I was watching Destiny watch this, by the way, the whole time, which I think was the best way to frame it because I wanted to see what him and his community's reaction to all of it was because they're all just like, oh, yikes, like super cringe. They're not trying to see like any kernel of like truth or any potential like reality to anything that he's describing or like the reasons for that. They're just like, oh man, like he's just lost, because he's like now in this alt media world, as opposed to like what he should have done if he wanted to know what was going on is that he should have talked to some people at like colleges and stuff like that, and he should have you know what I mean. He should have read some books about it, and that's probably true. He probably should have done that, but obviously he doesn't have faith in these institutions to tell him the truth because his engagement with the institutions that he's involved in has been nothing but like being lied to. Of course, he's also being manipulated and lied to continually today, like, right? But now he's being lied to and manipulated by people who are presenting themselves as his like allies in this like counter hegemonic like rebellious dissident sort of thing, when really they're all just like trying to see what they can get out of him, because what the extent of their dissidence, all of them, Nick Fuentes, Milo, Alex Jones, even the extent of their dissidence is just creating content, right? And Kanye is a content creator. Kanye is really good content. Kanye will bring you a lot of views. So they all want to have him on, but they don't actually want to talk about all these things. Alex was kind of getting into it more later, and when he was like, well, you don't actually mean that about Hitler, et cetera. You don't know that much about the actual Nazi regime. He's just been hanging out with Nick Fuentes, who just keeps like fucking telling him, he's like, oh yeah, you and Hitler are so similar because you're like artists and you're into design, et cetera. You can tell that this is what Fuentes is talking to him about, obviously. And obviously that's going to gas Kanye up, obviously. But you can sort of see him being more and more uncomfortable with the fact that Kanye is basically just saying what he just repeated to him in confidence, right? Because Nick isn't even that open. Like he tries to mask his positions here, like the fact that he thinks the Holocaust didn't happen, under like 5 layers of irony in order to like be to do what he does, right? The say Alex Jones does the same thing. He doesn't necessarily like name names, etc. He has a lot of like vague intimations of like how things are working, that there is a conspiracy, but like we never really know like who's doing it. There's like a few names that you can say we're like know for sure that these people are doing it or whatever. But it's not really like a scientific, like class-based analysis of any of this. So obviously they're not going to come to the right conclusions. But it's interesting to see, right? Like it's definitely interesting to see how this is going to blow up, because it's like you have like Kanye straight up like just with Nick Fuentes. I don't know. It's fucking funny to me. I don't think it can last very long. I can't like. There's no way that this is helping him in any way. In some ways, though, this is he's going through what a lot of people went through in the 2010s, which is like, okay, if I'm going to be like canceled, if they're going to call me a Nazi, then I might as well become a Nazi. You know what I'm saying? So he's like in his bonfire of the vanities, his attempt to like absolutely humiliate himself in this like spectacle in order to be like a vessel for like God's working in the world. He's gone too far, one might say, in trying to portray himself as like the worst possible evil in this media hegemony or whatever, which would be like the Nazi. Even though that's not really the case, the worst possible evil would be the communist, right? It's kind of actually less radical to be saying this about Hitler than it would be to be saying it about Stalin or Mao or something. But he's not that educated on history. So yeah, I mean, he really just needs to read books. He's being handled and manipulated by people who do not have his best interests in mind at all, or anyone's best interest aside from their own promotion in the media cycle, because that's the extent of what their dissidence is just activism for their own self promotion. That's all it is. Like Nick is like loving it because he gets to promote off this right now, right? They had him record an America First intro or whatever. I don't know. I watched the whole thing. I don't know. It's like it's definitely going to get worse for Kanye. Definitely getting worse for Kanye after this one. There's no way he's coming out of that one unscathed. Uh, yeah, because he's just going like you go to a certain point where you start saying stupid, retarded shit, like in your attempt to incarnate in yourself like the absolute antithesis of the prevailing narrative. You're like, oh well, yeah, that means Hitler was good and I think he's cool. It's like it's already cringe. Like, but we can find that cringe because we're like way internet jaded and have already lived through the 2010s of this discourse. But Kanye is a Gen Xer. He's like at best like a really old millennial. So all of this is like hitting him. All of this like right wing conspiracy theory vision of things is like the only thing that is giving him a framework that can maintain like his like faith commitments, etc., and also somewhat explains his economic dealings and hardships, or like his class relationship with things like that. So that's why he's going with that. That's the same reason why we have a bunch of like like it's not surprising that people fall into these categories, because the channels are there to make that happen. Yeah, that's what I would say. Someone wave if they really got something to say or anything to talk about on this front. I think I said pretty much everything that I was already saying. I thought it was based that he had the same take on Balenciaga as me. That like everyone that like because he's like talking about Kim K, right? Like his wife is like, oh, Balenciaga went too far this time, but he's like, but at the same time he's like, well, like there's no difference between that and anything else. So like it's the same thing as everyone else was doing. It's like our whole economy is fucking satanic. To like point to this one instance of it and be like, this is the aberration. It's like no, like the whole fucking system is satanic. Like no one is good, no one's innocent here. All right, I'm gonna add Hunter S. Catboy. Hunter S. Catboy. What do you have to say? I'm a little worried.
Okay. So I caught the first quarter of the talk and then probably like the last 30 minutes because I had stuff I was doing. I'm trying to figure out the 8D chess game plan this man's trying to do.
He doesn't have a chess. He doesn't have a plan. He's entire like, are you kidding me? This is not a man with a plan. This is a man who's burning down all of his royalties in some attempt at like finding the truth. Like he is so desperate to know the truth of like what is actually happening in the world that he is burning everything he has completely to the ground. Other people don't see that. Like Alex Jones has sort of done is actually closer to I think, but like Nick Fuentes is not nearly like on that level of like having had something to like sacrifice in the first place. His whole media career has been built off of doing this sort of thing, like this sort of like performance of burning your own public credulity or whatever the people that people would credit you with. He has like anti-credit. He has like cancel culture cred for like being canceled or what. Same thing that Laura Loomer calls in to brag about, right? Like they're actually much more similar. Laura Loomer and Nick Fuentes are much more similar than they are to like Alex Jones. Alex Jones actually has to like bear the cost of the fact that he's put stuff out there that he's been like legally liable for or whatever now. Like how many trillions of dollars does he owe to the courts or something?
It was just comparing the Tim Pool interview and this. He was much more tame on Tim Pool. I don't know if someone told him behind the scenes, "Hey, just go off on Alex Jones, just see what happens."
I think it's more that no one told him no, right? So he's asking, who's he asking for? Like, is this a good idea to do? He's asking now. He's turning to Nick Fuentes and Milo. Would you ever trust any of those people to tell you, like, hey, am I making a complete fucking fool of myself in public? But if he wants to make a complete fool out of himself in public, which is what I think, like, low key psychologically is what he's doing, right? Is that he's trying to humiliate himself in like as large of a way as possible to like atone for like his pride and hubris or something. Like that's what it seems to me psychologically he's doing. So in that way, what he's doing is perfectly rational if that's his goal. I tend to think it makes more sense to look at like people's actions as if what they're doing is like perfectly rational, but that their stated ends might not be what they're conscious of themselves.
Yeah, yeah, that's interesting. I do notice that you did say he doesn't have a game plan,
No,
and it's
absolutely not. He has no idea what he's doing.
yeah,
Obviously.
it's because at first the Kanye 2024 meme was funny, and then I watched this and I
Well, the
just
thing
couldn't
is,
wrap my
other
head
people
over what was
gas him up.
happening.
This is the other thing, though, is that other people not being real, like he's talking about being honest, etc. But like, are people being honest? Like Trump was actually being honest when he was like, "You're not going to become the president." You know what I mean? That was actually like that came up too, like when they were talking about Mar-a-Lago. That like Trump was actually being honest with him, being like, "You're not going to run for president." Like, at the end of the day, like the only reason I had you around here is because it was beneficial for like my polling amongst like these people. But it turns out that my attempt to patronage like your voter group or whatever doesn't even pay off for me that much. Like Trump's talking like total real politics, like how the world actually fucking works and why Kanye is not going to be president, etc. So he was doing a service by telling him the truth that capacity. But like Nick and Milo, they're like, oh no, dude, you definitely can. Why? Because they want him to, because they can grift off of it, obviously. They're not going to tell him the truth. They have totally conflicting interests.
Um, so let's say in the next 2 years the Kanye campaign just falls apart. Do you think that Nick and Milo are going to go back on Trump, or are they going to go for someone else?
It's gonna just depend almost entirely on what their benefit is in that time. You know what I mean? Like if they're gonna like they could also like grift and make like some type of third, like it's all comes down to them preserving themselves as activists in this media ecology. Everyone forgot Milo was around for a long time, right? No one gives a fuck about Milo. Milo reappears into the discourse because he's perpetually trying to show up in it. You know what I'm saying? So it's like he'll do whatever it takes to like be relevant.
Yeah, yeah, I get that.
I
I don't
honestly
have the
could see
biggest
Nick.
trust in Milo,
I could
so
see Nick going against Trump, though. I could see him going more that way because Nick ultimately, at the end of the day, envisions himself as being the leader of some like new movement in like American conservative thought or something. Like he thinks of himself in that way. Like he has that sort of like thinks that he's thinking like AD chess down the road or whatever. So if there's anyone who is like, so he'll like it would actually be more beneficial for him to grift off Kanye for longer than off Trump because there's less competition.
yeah, yeah, understandable.
That's what I think anyway, from like a marketing perspective here. Like it makes more sense also to look at these people and just think about what their incentives are in like the marketplace of brands. When it like because everyone's selling essentially right their narrative, their cosmology to explain the news cycle of the day, to explain the discourse of the day. So they're like trying to maintain their position where they get paid to do that.
Yeah, I was just the only thing I was interested in mainly was the difference in how he conducted himself on Tim Pool and Alex Jones. That was my main focus, because I just thought it was very strange. But I know you have a lot more thoughts on this matter than probably I do.
Well, I think he just wants to get a lot of shit off of his chest. Like, he wants to say all of the shit that he's ever thought, like, ever. You know, he wants to be like, you know what? There's like a part of me that likes, that thinks Hitler was cool. Like, you know, like he just has to say everything. So, like, he didn't think that he'd be able to just go off on Tim Pool because Tim kept stopping him, right? And even Alex was stopping him, but he was giving him more time to just completely say whatever was on his mind, which is all he's looking for. He needs to like he's been trying to like just say what's on his mind so that he can like receive education or like correction from it. That's even what I'm saying when I'm saying like his real goal, like psychologically here, is to like humiliate himself so he can like learn. He like thinks it's an educational experience for everyone. So he's like trying to throw himself on the spire here of like the fact that like no one should be surprised that this discourse or these ideas or whatever are out there and that people are attached to them and that they like actually impact the way people imagine the world, right? So it's like I was watching Destiny watching this, right? And their whole community is like, oh yikes, it's like this talking point. We're as younger people, like younger millennials and Zoomers, etc. We're used to every single fucking like argument and type of position politically being something that we've like sort of engaged with at least a little bit. If you're in this like part of the internet, especially where it's like, oh, that's like that type of person or whatever. So we're much more used to like like seeing like the immediate like 1, 2, 3 rhetorical steps of like these various discourse tribes or whatever you want, however you want to call them, epistemic communities.
How long do you think Kanye is going to do this? Do you think he's just going to continue for the rest of his life going on these alt media platforms
Yeah,
and
I
saying
think
this
part of it,
spiel?
he wants like straight up is kind of sad, but what he straight up like he's already had all of this stuff taken from him, and there's like a part like I don't know, it's a little bit of a dangerous thing, but I think that he actually does like he wants to like die for the people, like he has kind of like a messianic sense that like he should die for the people, and like he was like talking on it even where he's like talking about how like people are gonna come kill him, but he's thinking about like he wants that to happen because then that would confirm, you know what I mean? He has that sort of in trying to be a Christian, he wants to die, right? In pub, like he wants to be crucified. But there is also like a dangerous type of pride in there as well, which is I think why he's being crucified in this manner, if that makes sense. He's being completely humiliated.
I mean, yeah, most likely. I was watching the Alex Jones stream on Cozy TV, and I mean, what I got like 6,000 viewers, and people were pretty riled up in a good way when he started talking about Hitler. And it just made me think of, does he have a legitimate chance of even making it into the political sphere in
No,
2024? Like, even
no,
if he dropped
absolutely
out?
not. No, that's the thing is like Alex Jones knows is like the thing is that thinking Hitler was cool or good is just stupid. That's like the thing is like it's like adolescent brained, if that makes sense. Right? Like it's like something you do to be edgy. But like be like to seriously be about it, you're actually in a completely different category. Like Nick isn't even serious about it. Most of the people who are like, oh, based epic or whatever, they're not actually like serious, like philosophical. Because like you can actually see the distinction between the people who like understand the philosophical conceptions, etc., that actually foregrounded like fascism, the theory of fascism, all of these things in like an actual material geopolitical context, i.e., like what actually happened and why. There's a big difference between those people and the people who are like in the fandom for like the aesthetic.
Yeah. That's basically all I had to say. So someone else can come in here and replace me
Word.
if you want.
For sure, man. All right. Let's see. I'll put you on Fox. I don't know. That's how all I see in it really. Like we're gonna get a lot of explainers soon about like the dangerous ideas he's promoting. But I think it's also like the danger here is that it's like we're gonna just be seeing like all like quote unquote black radicals, like being like black nationalists or whatever. All of those people are gonna be tied together with like white nationalists, etc. They're all being put together into this one big category right now, which is ironically what Kanye is trying to get all of those people like come together in a way because they're like the new scapegoat for like this prevailing like police regime. Like we're trying to produce more of these ethno extremist terrorists etc groups like white separatist groups and like black separatist groups etc because that's like we need more of them to give the FBI more things to do. So I see more of that probably coming in the future. Be like, getting some Vox explainers about the like Farrakhan and stuff like that. and like Nation of Islam and stuff like that. I'm sure because it's not like these like anti-Semitic conspiracy theories are like the unique purview of like white nationalists. Like it's a whole literature that is like global in scope, or like talking about the historical presence of Zionism or like the Zionist project, etc. Like that's like a very like long. It's like the most contentious issue in all of world geopolitics. So obviously it's gonna rile people up. All right, Fox, I can't hear you. So let's see. Lilac, you're up. And Simus, I'll add you too. What did you guys think?
So I was like thinking a lot about like the phrase like never meet your heroes type thing for Nick because I think Nick actually genuinely like is a fan of Kanye.
Yeah, he is. That's why it was so funny. I knew I was like, I know that this is what went down at Mar-a-Lago,
Hmm.
like days before they talked about it on here. But he was saying that moment where it was like he had to pick between Trump and Ye, like at the dining table. Like I think that's really funny because I think in his heart he would go with Kanye.
Absolutely. I mean, like I remember watching his stuff, like that whole Charlie Kirk thing. It seems like it happened probably 4 years ago, but or whatever.
Yeah, Charlie Kirk is who Trump
Oh,
likes, like
absolutely.
low key, like unironically, like that's the kind of person Trump wants, not Nick
No,
Fuentes.
absolutely, and that's why like I feel like Nick probably goes more towards that. And I remember he started following Ye like more and more like ever since he started supporting Trump. So it's like even then like his what he finds interesting or what he finds like aesthetically pleasing or whatever, it's always tied to like how he can influence his brand. And
Yeah,
it's so sad that like I mean, especially with Ye, like that whole thing that happened with Gap and Adidas and like his falling out with his family, like all of like he keeps talking about all these insidious people who are like trying to undermine his family, trying to
but he
undermine
doesn't see it like right sitting right
exactly.
next to him. Like
It's
once
so
again,
sad. Like that's part of the whole. I feel like that's like the dramatic irony in all of this like
it
humiliation.
is.
Yeah.
But I think that's like so. If it, but what I'm saying is that if his real goal, right, is to like throw himself through the gauntlet of all of this kind of publicly, basically throwing himself through all of like 2010s discourse shit that like no one wants to like deal with anymore, right? Throwing himself through all of that, like what is it going to do? I think we're seeing how much these people are like parasitic. The alt media, I think, is what's being especially like the thing is, right, is like ideally, right, if you're like someone like Alex Jones or Nick Fuentes, you get someone with this huge public profile and artistic impact like Kanye, and he's like, okay, teach me your ways, like teach me what's actually going on in the world because I don't trust the mainstream anymore, so I'm going to rely on you, alternative media, to teach me what's going on in the world. This is what happens. So it's like, actually, is the alt media like this beneficial thing? Is it doing what it says it's doing?
No,
Is it
it
actually
never
teaching
has.
people anything? It's like, no, it obviously isn't.
Yeah, it never has. I mean, maybe there was a time in its inception where it was like, being controlled by people like who actually cared. But now it's like
Well,
all these
we're
like,
like, I'm talking when I say like alt media, like I like Alex Jones is one thing, but I like I'm talking like Mae Brussel. I'm talking about like the real alt media back in the day. I'm talking about like we like there's still like levels to the alt media. It's just that these spectacular forms where it becomes edutainment
yeah,
is
absolutely.
where it completely collapses in on itself.
I mean, you could characterize Whitney Webb as alt media, and then she actually reads. So
No,
it's
but she
like,
actually is like producing real content, and like, but
right,
the thing is that producing real stuff like that is like, I don't know. I was talking to Edberg about this recently. He got covered in like a Paris Review article with this concept of where it's like you want to introduce these more like long term trends into this immediate trend discourse or whatever, right? So it's like Whitney Webb, like they're producing like a lot of like she produces like legitimate research that's going to be valuable even like 50 years from now, right? But it's
absolutely.
like the alt media isn't doing stuff like that anymore. It doesn't even pay attention or promote things like that anymore.
Because I mean, no one's gonna read it. I
Yeah,
mean,
because no one's going to
that's the
read it.
thing.
Yeah, so like that means that we actually at this point do need to have like a more like boilerplate version of things. Like we need to like actually disclose to people a general like framework or cosmology in which these things make sense. And that's what the real competition over is in the alt media is like the narrative that coordinates the alt media itself as like a space.
But that's way harder. Like
Yeah, it's
it
way
requires,
harder.
yeah. So that's the reason why no one does it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm kind of trying to do that. I try to
Well,
kind
you
of
do
put
it,
together a
yeah.
cosmological frame here, but I don't expect that like I can proliferate this too quickly. I mean, I know people in Kanye's camp, so I feel like I'm going to eventually get in contact with him. But I think he's going to have to burn through this right now because honestly, I don't think even if you put me in a room with Kanye right now, I could convince him that Nick Fuentes is like just like fucking grifting off of him. I don't
Yeah,
think
you
I
gotta.
could do that.
Well, I don't think that you would want, like, especially someone like him. Like, I feel like he needs to arrive, like, just like anyone. When you're talking to someone, if they're not being receptive to your ideas, then what are you really doing? You know, or
Yeah.
like even trying to be charitable with what you're saying, then what are you even doing? You know.
Yeah, well, the problem is he's just being like, you know, he's being manipulated like constantly. He's like a person who's actually like pretty easily manipulated, as we've seen. Like he says so himself. Like the reason why he's so paranoid is because he's been manipulated so ever since he's like entered the music industry, right? Like that's
Mm-hmm.
all it is like constantly being manipulated and trying to like you know, make sure that like you're not getting totally screwed, but you're getting screwed every single day.
And I think that's why a lot of people like relate to him. Like, I totally agree with you because it's like I feel like a lot of people. I think on some level, I think most people generally want to get to the truth, and there's like a lot of stuff in the way, and then they feel like they're being manipulated. So it's like when Ye talks about all these things that he's going through, I feel like a lot of people relate to it.
Yeah, of course, because it's like that actually is what happens. Like a lot of people are manipulating you. Like that's real. Like there are these like entrenched political interests that go really back. There is like, you know, a really long history to like the development of how we got to be where we are today. It's just that there's almost nowhere that's outfitted to like actually put this together in some type of understandable cosmology, right? Or at least that rather there's so many people doing that none of it then it just becomes a new layer of manipulations. That's
It's so
basically what all of like the secret societies of the 19th century were about anyway, is that they were all like, okay, how do we actually explain like what's going on in the world, right? Like so then and then like they're like, okay, well, we disagree with your interpretation of what things are going on in the world. That's like what these communities exist to do.
mm-hmm.
I thought
Yeah. Sorry,
if
go
I
ahead.
can enter for a
Yeah.
moment, I thought like the most interesting part that really caught my eye, where I felt like the illusion was breaking of his act, was when he said that like there was this moment when with civil rights that, you know, he thought that black people could become, you know, as white people, respectable, and then with entertainment it became, you know, what's popular in hip hop is, you know, where the N words were bitches, and that's how we self-identify, and that's the role we're gonna play. And now he's saying that, you know, he's taking that to the extreme, where he says, you know, if you say that I'm an anti-Semite, then that's what I'm gonna be. I'm gonna play this oblivious clown that, you know, is doing this just
Yeah, he's
purely for
playing the
entertainment.
scapegoat.
Yeah, and I thought there that you could see that what really broke him before all of this was when he started to pivot to his, you know, Christian sort of thought, and, you know, he was putting out albums and trying to be respectable, and no one gave a shit. like like his relevance from pop culture started to fade immediately. Like no one was writing about it, no one was talking about it, and he felt like he was losing, I guess, his reach and capability to influence people. And, you know, this, and he realized that, you know, to maintain that, he has to just go crazy
Well, there's also
And
just
and
it's
like
play
part of
the
the reason.
clown.
Sorry, go ahead.
it has a lot more, I think, to do with like his immediate like familial situation, obviously, right? Because it's like it's not like Ye is like this like woman respecter or something like his whole life or something, right? Like he's obviously like, you know, he's committed a lot of adultery in his time. So that, but then he's like wants to be a better person, but then he's like is surrounded in like this world that makes that impossible. You know, he's like his wife is Kim Kardashian. You know what I mean? Like
And that's
how's
like
it? He's
that's the entire theme of My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy.
yeah, exactly. Is like the like Madonna horror complex sort of thing that he had going on there. And it's like he realized that like ultimately at the end of the day, like that's he couldn't reorganize his family on that level because their family is really a business. Like when Marx talks about the bourgeois family, it's a family like that. Like that's not even a real like he wants it to be like a family, like in the sense that he was privy to a family being like, you know, growing up in Chicago with his mom or whatever and his dad. That's like what he wanted to do is to like have a family like a normal person would. But he's like it ascended in his class position, so he's not that's like out that's not available to him with that person anyway, you know, but it's too late at that point, right?
I mean, yeah, but also like I really believe that he loves her. You know,
No, I
like
think he
still.
absolutely does. Like that's what's like sad about it. you know, like it's like he does, and he's like can't do what he wants to do in that relationship. Neither of them can, I think. I don't know, because Kim Kardashian wants to be like, you know, she's like important, and she realizes like she's more of like a real politic, pragmatic minded person than Ye is, and she realizes that her real opportunity is like to grift off of like the Democratic like NGO machine, right? Because that's like what professionalism is today. Is like you set up your charities, et cetera, and you become a part of this whole wing of like being like progressive allies or whatever. That's like how you actually enter respectability in the aristocracy from the position that they're in. But Ye doesn't want to do that. Ye wants to be like fucking Malcolm X, you know? That's like the complete opposite.
No, yeah, totally.
So he's caught there. And so that's why he's burning all of his capital right now.
So yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to say on the matter. So
Word.
I'm gonna let you go.
Cool. All right.
Have a good day. Bye.
You too, man. All right, Fox, I'll add you back again. See if you can talk this time.
Can you hear me this time?
Yeah, what's up, man?
So, I mean, I've been thinking about Kanye a lot because, I mean, I haven't really followed him the same way you guys have, but and maybe this whole thing is just a psyop, but he does seem like he's trying to get to the truth. And I mean, I'm in total agreement that he's gotten to that next layer, right? Is these people? It's almost like you get to the left, and then there's the post left, right? Now he's in the post left.
Yes, that's where he's at. Yeah.
And now there's these people who he feels like he can trust a little bit more, who have been burned by the quote unquote establishment, but they're also using him. And I think the only way for him to get through this is for him to keep trying to seek the truth, which is what it seems like what he's doing. And he will eventually get burned by these people too.
No, he's already like, this was him getting burned by these people. Like, this isn't good for him. You know what I mean? Like, this is going to cause him a ton of anguish and sorrow for months. Right.
Yeah. No. And like, eventually hopefully he'll get to people, you know, in our political sphere who can actually help him understand.
I mean, I feel kind of bad because like I have contacts like in his camp or whatever, and they were telling me to send over stuff. Like, I feel like I should have done that earlier or something. Maybe I could have saved him from this embarrassment, but I guess like I don't know, it's not meant to be. I'll wait my turn here.
Well, I mean, eventually, that's the thing, is like he has to go through these trials. I mean, I think about my own political journey
because like
how many trials I've had to go through.
It's so dumb. Like, all of his instincts, all of the things that he actually wants to accomplish, it would just make much more sense if he was a communist.
Yeah.
Because, and like the way that his like parents were, you know what I mean? Like, it's so funny. Like, he's gone so far from his tradition here just because he's trying to find who's like uncompromisingly telling the truth. But he's still in a nest of liars, and he doesn't know it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he's a super famous person. He's going to be stuck in that world for a while, right? But the fact that he's going balls to the wall just to like seek the truth and saying the most polemical shit he can just to see who's out there, who will still talk to him. I mean, that's what you got to kind of do, right? And that, I mean,
no, I get it,
it's
because
like
I mean that's how people think of
me,
right?
Too. I don't know.
People think that I'm like, people like all the time. They're like, "Weren't you a Nazi like 5 years ago, whatever?" It's like, I know I wasn't, but I also was like willing to like talk to people like this. I understand their perspectives. I've read their literature or whatever, you know. Right. But like that's already like too far. So I understand the position he's in, because there's nothing I could do ever to convince someone who is like preordained, like thinking that I'm like some like far right, like racist or something, that's not the case. Like, that's already in there. There's even some people who think that like I still am that in a positive sense, like they want me to be that and they think I am that, but there's nothing you can do about that. That's how it is in this media ecology. So his willingness to be tarred as such a thing is a testament to like how much he's seeking the truth, but he's not going to find it where he's going.
He's got to keep going, right? Like, when you're in hell,
it's just like if you keep going long enough, you'll eventually find it no matter what. But I'm just saying, like, the people he's surrounding himself with it's like they're just using him. It's sad, but it is for sure. It is.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and then there's going to be all the people who drop off along the way because they're like, oh no, he's just a Nazi, this and that. He's a right winger, but he's got to keep going. And I mean, if you can get in contact with him, that'd be pretty base.
I mean, the thing is that like he keeps bringing it back to the Bible and stuff way more than either Jones or Fuentes were interested in doing, because that's not even really their grift. They present as Christians in order to like, you know, to have the moral authority of Christianity, but they're not that serious about it. You know, like when they start talking about the actual text itself, they get a little more hazy.
Well, in that way, it's almost better that, I mean, he should kind of experience a little bit of this now, right? To get a taste of this.
Yeah,
That way,
no,
when,
there's no better education than what he's doing. The thing is
yeah,
that education in this manner is like educating yourself the hard way. Like I think that's what he wants to do. So, he's gonna do it.
yeah, I mean, it's pretty wild. It's very interesting to watch. It'd be great
I
to have
mean, the
somebody
thing is
like
that
him
like
on our side as the spokesperson too.
some people are like scandalized by shit like this or whatever, but it's like I like Ezra Pound. Like I'm not afraid of anything. Like I've read Ernst Jünger. Like I will defend Kanye saying that not like some of that the Nazis themselves were also like victims of the Nazi regime. You can't just be like, oh, everyone who was German in that time period is like ontologically evil. There's
Well,
like
I
that'd
mean,
be like the same thing as
that's
saying that today.
that's like the beauty of what he was saying, and like you can get caught up in like, oh, he's saying Hitler was good, and that's like
Yeah, no,
a
they don't get
really
it.
like polemical, fucked up thing to say. But at the same time, the message that he's saying is that all human beings have inherent value, and that really is like the bottom line, right? That's the bottom line, and
Yeah,
he's
like he's
saying it.
actually like he takes like I think he's an authentic like he's authentically trying to be a Christian, right? And I
Yeah.
think people are misleading him as to what that means politically, especially. But that's the case with a lot of people who come to like Christianity after being like I don't know jaded or finding something short in the more secular cosmos of like progressive world building or whatever.
And in a way, it's almost like he is trying to push past like this next layer that he's on of like the Alex Joneses who do seem to be like the anti-establishment people, but he's like pushing their lines to see like where's the point where he can get Alex Jones to sound like a
Well, he
leftist and be
found it
like,
there. He found it there. But Alex Jones
yeah,
also kind of had his number when he's like, "So yeah, you like design and stuff, and you see it. Like that doesn't mean that you actually understand like what happened in that." Like Alex Jones is
yeah,
like, you got to go like read. He literally is telling me should read a book about something. You know what I
yeah,
mean? That's what Alex Jones. So Alex, I think is like he was more privy to like the fact that Kanye doesn't know what he's talking about. Than say Nick Fuentes, who has said all of those same exact things and probably told Kanye those exact things.
yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think there's a lot of it that's sort of this projection of the average American onto Kanye, who knows that something is wrong and doesn't have like the whole political and historical background to understand much. They're just like something's wrong,
Yeah,
and I need
something's
to kind of
wrong.
suss. I need to suss out like who's the liar and what buttons, what things can I
What
say
buttons
to
create a
test you?
reaction?
Yeah,
Yeah. So if
yeah,
I press this button, it makes a reaction. It means they don't want me to press this button. So why don't they want me to press this button? I'm going to press it.
yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah. But that's so much of what happened on the like internet discourse or whatever over the last like 10 years. So none of this should be fucking surprising to people that like you have I don't know, you know what I mean? Like I don't know. I'm not that scandalized by anything. So it's hard for me to like fall back into I was watching Destiny watching this. So seeing the way that like his audience and things are all reacting to it, they're all like, "Oh my god, it's like this is no one could ever come back from this. This is the worst," and like Destiny's like, "He made Graduation." Like I can't believe and it's just like, do you know
Yeah, but
like
these same
any
people like love
real
Vosh
artists?
for saying the same shit. So
It's like, do you know any really real artists? Like, have you ever like, are you actually like interested in like art history? It's like you're gonna like it's so dumb. You know what I mean? I don't know. I'm capable of like reading Carl Schmidt without becoming a Nazi. You know what I
well,
mean? Like
yeah.
it's like it's
Well,
just like
I mean, you have to read all of it to
yeah, you have
understand
to
it.
read all of it to even know what the fuck's going on. So this idea
Yeah,
of like being like terrified of like, oh, you can't ever read any of those things because they might sway you. It's like, yeah, they are dangerous because they might sway you, which is why you have to
yeah,
know what the arguments are in the first fucking
right.
place.
Yeah, exactly. It's like people who don't trust their own capability to
Discover
take
the
and
truth.
to take something in and not be like taken over by it. And that the same people fearmonger about everything being a cult and
Yeah.
everything. Yeah, it's like, oh, if you expose yourself to it in any way, you're just going to get sucked up into it. Whereas people who
If you watch
have
a
more
Marvel
faith in
movie,
their own,
their idea is like if you have contact with this thing, then you're it's like either you're gonna develop like this pathological thing,
yeah,
like aversion to it where it'll make you sick, like in a Clockwork Orange type of thing, where it's like, oh, I could never read such a thing by that perspective. It makes me nauseous and sick
yeah,
to think of even or whatever. People do that all the time too on the right when it comes to like reading left. It's like, oh, I would never read Marx. The thought of it makes me puke or whatever.
that's so funny. Yeah.
But
I
yeah,
mean,
but
I
people do it
think
all over the
people who
place.
are against Marx, like the people at the top of the chain, they fucking read Marx and they like.
Yeah, of course they do. The people who actually do shit, like, the people
Yeah.
working for the Rand Corp have read Marx.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like that's
Yeah.
the thing is like he's right to like not trust the authorities, right? Like it's right to not trust like the mainstream authorities, but it's completely doesn't mean that you should trust the alternative authorities. Like
Yeah.
they're not any better. They're like a lot like that's the thing also is that it's like your failure to attain a position in the mainstream media is not oppression. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't want to attain that position because that position's bad. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like you want to be like, oh, why don't I get to have a talk show on MSNBC? It's like because if you wanted to have a talk show on MSNBC, you'd have to sound like the people on MSNBC. That's what the job is. It's not for you to express your fucking unique subjectivity or whatever. So like, oh, I've been oppressed because I'm not being I can't monetize me expressing my unique subjectivity. So I'm going to monetize it in this alternative media space. And it's just like, yeah, whatever.
Well, that's why it's crazy that he's somebody who's like embedded in that and is now taking this turn. That's why sometimes I wonder is this a psyop? Is he just a brilliant performer? But I don't know. He
No,
seems like
he
he's
couldn't be
seeking.
useful for anyone's agenda. That's what's beautiful
Yeah,
about it is that
yeah.
everything he's doing is not useful for anybody. This has not been useful or good for literally anybody. I think it's good for everyone in the long term, right? That like it's providing this like spectacle and space to like confront all of these things or whatever, for like all of these things to be like mashed together. Because I think it'll ultimately lead to like more like clearing of the ground for like actual truth to be built upon it,
Yeah.
But it's not
Well, he's
good for
shedding
any
light
of the
on the
like. Is this good for
hypocrisy.
Alex
Yeah.
Jones? No. Was this good for Nick Fuentes? No. Was this good for Milo Yiannopoulos? No. Was this good for Kanye? No. This is bad for everyone involved, and that's why
Yeah.
it's good.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. He exposed something with who was the guy? Tim Pool, where the they question, right? The
Yeah.
they question, where he was like, so he said all these things about these people do this and that and that, this and
He's
that,
like, well,
and
who
then
is that?
and
Name
he's
it.
and the other guy, what's his name? Tim Pool says he invokes the they, but then Kanye says, oh well, who's they? And he says, oh okay, we can't talk about it then. And that's the
Because the
hot
funny
button
thing is
topic.
that Tim
That's the
Pool
third
thinks
rail.
they is the Jews, but he also knows that you're not supposed to say that. But he does think that is true. But he's also smart enough to know that his role in the media discourse or whatever is to be like chiding both sides and being like, I'm not bigoted against anyone except for them. And who is them? It's corporations or whatever. Like it's
Yeah.
just the vague like anti-authoritarian posturing or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I fucking fuck Tim Pool, but I don't know. I hate all of the alt media people. Honestly, I think that they're
Yeah.
no different from the mainstream media people. They're just like the losers of mainstream media. Like that's all it is. Like they're just like the second tier.
Pretty much. I mean, they're the new layer, right? Like I was thinking about this last night that who watches mainstream media anymore? I don't think
Yeah,
anybody
exactly. Like
our
mainstream
age or
media is
younger
like for old
watches.
people.
Yeah. So, but then it's presented as alternative media is like somehow outside of the mainstream media, but it's just a more sophisticated arm of. I mean, instead of being run by like these giant corporations, it's run by like 3-letter agencies that we're just not aware of it. It's that like false democracy idea of like, oh, it feels more free and open and run
Yeah,
by the
I mean,
people,
it's
but
like we
it's
haven't got like what like do we really want Alex Jones to just be convincing Kanye that the real problem is the Chinese communists, like the
yeah,
Chicoms who own everything and run
yeah.
everything? It's like they're all lying, they're all completely bullshitters, but it's like, he at least exposes the fact that none of them can like act, like kind of like contain his subjectivity, if that makes sense. Like it's just destructive to all of them because none of them can like give an actual understanding or like description of what's happening.
Well, to me, that's what it seemed like they were. That's why they're all leveraging him right now. They're leveraging this like fireball of Kanye West right now to sort of push that new line of like the anti-China sentiment. So I mean, that's why all the commercials were promoting that in
Yeah.
between this interview.
Yeah, true. But I like Kanye pushed back on the medium when he was talking about Balenciaga and everyone do about like the whole discourse around it being fundamentally hypocritical. Like he pushed back on the ad roll in that played on Infowars. So he was like at war even in the context of it with the alt media itself, like trying to contain him. So I think that's why it's like it was ultimately good. Like I don't know, I
Yeah.
enjoyed watching it. It was definitely a spectacle.
For sure. Yeah, I'm tuning in every single interview he does now. It's like,
Yeah, no, it's like the thing is like people are like, oh, this is dumb. We shouldn't pay attention to it. It's like, yeah, but a ton of people are paying attention to it for a reason. Like, you know what I mean? Even if you decide that you're above it, you're not going to pay attention to it. Like everyone else is paying attention to it. You can't
well, I think,
escape the discourse.
I mean, and like talking about it the way we are now, I think is really important too, because obviously, like Kanye doesn't have all the answers, and people shouldn't look to him as like, oh
Yeah, no, he
well,
doesn't know what he's doing. He's a
right,
musician. He's an artist, but that doesn't mean
right,
he's like a political economist or something. You know?
right. Then he'd be really fucking dangerous if he actually did have
Exactly.
some.
No, imagine Kanye like pulling out like Michael Hudson, you know what I mean? Michael Hudson tier stuff. Like that's would be actually dangerous is if he was like educated in a more proper sense. Like that's what's
Yeah,
actually dangerous. Is not what he's doing now. What he's doing now isn't dangerous. It's dangerous for the people, I guess, who are attaching themselves to him right now. Definitely. But I think that's good too. Like, you know, if you're going to try to grift off of him, then you have to take his L's too, right?
yeah, yeah. No, I know it's probably what's keeping him afloat right now. If he actually got a little bit, we'll see how close he can get to the truth.
We'll see. I don't know. I just have a like I like Nick if he's like Nick Fuentes is going to be talking him up. That's the thing is like that's like the weirdest relationship out of both of them is that like they both idolize each other cuz Kanye straight up thinks that Nick Fuentes just like understands more about the world than he does. Like he's asked like Alex asked him he's like, "So what do you think's going on in Ukraine?" And Kanye turns to Nick and just says, "Nick?" Cuz he doesn't know. He doesn't have an opinion on it at
Yeah,
all. He has no fucking
yeah,
clue. So he's
yeah.
just like I have his opinion because I trust him or whatever, right? But Nick knows that he's a fucking little fucking college dropout. You know what I mean? Like,
And he's
like
like 24. He's
he's
like
like
24
24
years
years old. He
old.
doesn't know what the fuck he's doing.
Yeah, no. I mean, but that's the thing is like Kanye's in a position now where he can't just be an island. He has to rely on other people. And these are probably the only options he has as
Yeah,
somebody who's such a high up, celebrity, because everyone in that world is just
they're all gonna try to
fucked.
get him to like be like, listen, Kanye, you just gotta like not talk about that stuff. You know, just secure your bag and like keep it moving or whatever, right? Like that's all they would tell him. Like that it's not worth like engaging in these things. And like, but he wants to be engaged in it. You know, it would be better for his career to like be apolitical or whatever. But
Yeah.
it's not.
Well,
That's not
like
what
you
he wants
said,
to do.
he said he lost his family, but they're taken care of. So he's on a mission from God, and I find it very, very compelling what he's saying. So, where he's drawing this motivation from is very compelling to me. So,
Yeah, he just has a really hard time expressing his thoughts in a linear manner. I mean, he's a poet, so what he usually would do is like, he's not expressing things in one go, but like taking multiple passes at the same notion, right? And to like
yeah,
refine it into like a song or whatever. So, that's like what he would really be like. That's why you have to let him talk for so long for him to like even make one point because his point isn't even a point. It's more about like a ratio. It's like an analogy,
yeah,
where he's saying like oh like we can't be just constantly dissing Nazis, you know what I mean? And it's like
right,
taken out of context of like the rest of what he's trying to say, then like all of these individual statements have atomized into like like as if they were individual tweets or something,
right,
just like statements that were meant to be like epigraphs or something. They're not actually what he's saying, but he also knows that he's going to be taken out of context, so he's playing into it because that's what he does. He's a bit of a
yeah.
troll too. Like Alex called him on that, but he'll deny that he's being a bit trollish, but he definitely is.
Well, you have to be. I mean, you have to be in this attention economy. If you're not a troll, if you're not doing anything that's like noteworthy, or I mean, that's how Trump won, right? It was by being a troll, by like knowing how to hijack the attention
The
economy.
attention economy, yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree, man. I don't want to do this for too much longer because honestly, I don't think there's much more to say about it. I think yeah, the man just needs a better education. We need to get him to like we need him to read some books. That's really the solution to everything. But he said that himself. He was like, "Oh, I like don't look me up. Just like go read the Bible." And it's like, "Well, maybe you got to go read some more of that." Yeah. Maybe you don't know what you're doing yet, quite yet. But I think he's on it like, if he's maintains his fidelity to the truth or whatever, just seeking that no matter what the cost, I think he'll find it. I have faith in that.
I agree.
But yeah, I think I'm going to be done on this one, guys. I wanted to get off before 4, and I don't really have anything else to say about it, frankly. So have a good one.
See you, logo.